All right. Well, Michael Lichter, you've been going to the Sturgis rally since 1979. I think that's right.
That's correct.
Okay, which is a long time. Have you missed a year at all, or no?
I missed 2 years in there. I think
Okay.
if I'm counting correct, it would be 43 that I've shot.
Okay, that's impressive. What I mean, even drew you up there into the first place, though.
Wow. The Sturgis rally was Mecca. It was like, it was the Holy Grail. You had to go to Sturgis.
Okay, I mean, can you explain a little bit more, like what the appeal was to you personally?
Uh, well, I rode a Harley and I was going to some motorcycle events and I'd go to swap meets, I'd go to bike shows, and just you knew you had to go to Sturgis. I mean, I had to experience it. I don't know what to say. You had to go and find out for yourself. So that's what I did. I tried to go in '78, but I didn't make it. My bike wasn't ready till about a week after, and I went through Sturgis in a week after the rally was over in 1978, and there wasn't a bike to be seen anywhere. I just kept riding north to Canada.
Oh, okay.
I just kept
Well,
going.
that was still probably an amazing ride. So
It was a great ride, but I wasn't Sturgis, so it didn't happen for me until '79, and then that was it. I made it, and it was all that I had imagined and more.
yeah. So what was your first impression when you pulled up there and you saw, the tens of thousands of bikes and people and everything when that first day in '79?
Well, it's interesting because you said tens of thousands, now it's hundreds of thousands, but back
Right.
then it may not have been 10,000. So it was very different. There were not the numbers of bikes that there are now. It was much more focused in Sturgis. It was much more concentrated. And there was the drag races in Belfouche because there was no track in Sturgis. And there was nothing in Rapid City. Everything happened in Sturgis. And Deadwood was a sleepy town. It was before they redid it and before they made gambling legal. Prostitution was still legal when we were going up there.
Wow. So
In
it sounds
Deadwood.
like it really was kind of the Wild West back in the day.
It was. It felt like that. City Park was the place to be, and we all camped out there together. And it's amazing some of the people that I know from that first year in '79. I mean, that's when I met Donnie Smith and his brother Happy, and they were camped right there. It was Charlie St. Clair Schultz. He's the director of the Laconia Rally. He was there. Like, none of us ever thought that this was going to be our lives, or it's the whole future, and that we'd be part of an industry, which eventually we were.
Yeah, and I mean, if I remember correctly, that's kind of where you got your motorcycle photography career really took off, right?
I started shooting bikes in '77 when I got my Harley,
Okay.
and but that's it was actually after that '79 rally when I sent some photos into Easy Riders that they printed my first photos in 1979.
Yeah, that's right. And is it the one with the prosthetic leg propped up on the motorcycle?
Correct. And last Saturday, that image became 45 years old.
Wow. Well, I mean, congratulations on a heck of a career of 45 years,
It was crazy.
and only missing two rallies in that time. What has changed kind of over the course of the rally? Obviously, the number of people and some of the venues and stuff have been added. But kind of what else has maybe changed in your mind as the rally has gone on over the decades?
Well, I don't think we ever used the word venue in '79, and probably not until maybe the mid '80s. I mean, it was before the Buffalo Chip even started. So, there was no One Eye Jacks, there was no Full Throttle or Broken Spoke or Iron Horse Saloon, or instead of a venue, it was just a couple of bars. There was it was called the Night Owl and Gunners, on Main Street, and most people, at least from Colorado, you'd meet up in Gunners. That's people had a hangout. We were in City Park mostly. Everybody rode over to the Belfouche Drags on Saturday. There wasn't a whole lot to choose from. Basically, you made your own fun. And I think what's happened is now, it's more and more popular. And I think this is true of our population in general, that people expect more,
Mm.
and maybe to not have to participate as much, or you buy your way in. Like you pay money and you go into a venue and you get you're here. You give us money, we'll give you Kid Rock. Or you give us money and we'll give you a bike show or whatever it may be. So it's all changed that way. It's much more commercial. It was not commercial, and there's no such thing as a sponsor, really. I mean, that's more of a modern day development, or something that certainly happened after 1979. So,
Sure. So do you think it's kind of been more of a wild party as more people have come and jumped in and participated? Or do you think maybe it's gotten more tame as time has gone on?
I, things go in cycles, don't they? Everything goes round and round, and it was really wild in this. I mean, it was wild. It would get out of hand at times, and I'd say it's probably getting back to some of that in some of the places. I mean, there's so much to choose from. So now you could go to a family-oriented campground if you wanted, or kid-friendly, or you pick and choose, or even the Buffalo Chip has Camp Zero separate
Hmm.
from their main campground. Say, oh, you want to get wild like in the 70s, come over and stay in Camp Zero. So there's more to choose from. I think it's come around now that younger people are looking for some of that older experience that we used to have, and that little wilder experience, and trying to make that happen. It's probably a little bit more controlled, and then there's the sponsorship element. It's much more complicated.
Sure. Sure. Yeah. There seems like almost like, because it was my first time, like kind of overwhelming amount of choice of things to do, which doesn't sound like it was kind of how it used to be.
Oh, absolutely. Like it's endless what you could do now. But before, you still had the riding, and that's been there forever. And that's still a wonderful, consistent thing, that the Black Hills are absolutely magical. And however much time you want to spend there, I was in the showers uh, Monday morning, before I got on my bike, and I met some people, talking to them in the showers over at the Buffalo Chip, and they were getting ready to go out riding. I had two different people that go in two different directions. One was going to head to Yellowstone and camp out there for a few days. Another one was just hadn't done the wildlife loop in Custer, so they were going to go down there for the day. And it was Monday, the rally's over, but they're still camped out and doing their thing. So I mean, you can make of it what you want. And I think that's really true for Sturgis then and now. You get as much out as you want to put into it.
Yeah, and I think that's, at least for me, what made it really cool is that you could, if you wanted to focus on just riding, you could. It seemed like there were a lot of people who'd gone there forever who were meeting up with friends, almost like a family reunion. If you wanted to go to concert after concert after concert, you could do that. It really is, seems like what you make of it. You're right.
Yeah, and for that, I think it's wonderful. And it's a little easier if you're make friends easy, or if you come with friends. I do believe that it's a lot about the people. I mean, we could say it's nothing without the bikes, but really, without the people, people go to see old friends that they only see once a year, reconnect. Some people have an annual trip that I know there's one group I met. They're like 10 different people from 10 different areas, different directions, and they
Wow.
camp together. And this happens to be in the Buffalo Chip, in the tent only camping area. And you know they're like really good friends. They only see each other once a year. They met there like 10 years ago or whatever. But it's really cool. That's so much of what it's about.
Yeah, yeah, it is really cool. And speaking of the Buffalo Chip, um, and just your time at Sturgis, you've kind of gotten more involved with the Sturgis rally as you've gone on. Can you talk about how you've done that?
Well, I think my involvement is really just, in a sense, I'm almost like a historian now. I've photographed more than half the rally. So I know the Sturgis Motorcycle Museum has, I think there are 10 large prints. Some of them are 60 inches wide, or 80 inches wide, something like that, hanging up, that they got for me this year, to sort of a historical display, a couple from every decade. It's kind of cool. And then the Buffalo Chip put up sort of a permanent thing. It's a 8 foot by 12 foot print. I call it Lightning Strikes. It's Kid Rock at the Buffalo Chip with a lightning bolt going across the sky, lighting up 50,000 people. And so they hung that up. And I did produce a Motorcycles as Art show. I did that for 22 years, and the
Hmm.
last 12 of them were at the Buffalo Chip. But I did stop that a couple years ago. I've seen that theme is been carried on. You know, the Buffalo Chip is continuing it in a different way. Mine were themed exhibitions where every year I would change the theme, and a lot of bike unveils, new bikes, and there were a lot of bikes, 38 bikes. And one year we did cafe racers. One year you couldn't have any paint on a bike.
Oh, wow.
Uh, One year it was people that don't make a living with their motorcycles, called Passion Built.
Mm.
And the one without paint was called Naked Truth. Um, you know, so every year would be these changing themes for the art and the motorcycles, and they've gotten away from that. Now it's one person, Kevin Dunworth, picks the motorcycles and the builders, and Savannah Rose does the artwork. So they put that on at the Buffalo Chip in the same space that I was in. So they've done that for 2 years now, and then Randall Knowledge does his cycle showcase that he started in St. Louis, and he does that in several places now. And he started one at the Steel Pony. So they have a gallery there. So they're doing motorcycles as art. And Michael Ballard at the Full Throttle, he built a beautiful gallery that he unveiled this year. And mototride was in there. So I think that tradition that I started in 2000 is continuing with other people. And it's great. That's all good.
Yeah. I think Sturgis Photo Historian is actually probably one of the cooler titles I've ever heard. So
I think I just gave that to myself right here
I mean,
on your podcast.
I think you've earned it. So, um, what would be something that maybe somebody who's never been to Sturgis before, what do you think would surprise them?
um, you know, it's interesting because as someone that has gone repeatedly, obviously 43 years, I've spent about a year and a half of my life in Sturgis. You know,
Wow.
the last 10 years were 2 weeks a year. So I've spent a lot of time there. And so, how do you keep it fresh, right?
Right.
So I look for new things. But one thing that's always good is I love hanging out with Sturgis virgins. Sometimes I've had assistants come with me that
Okay.
have never been there before. And they say, well, what are they supposed to do? I say, well, your main thing that you need to do, yeah, I'm sure carry a camera for me, you do this or that. But more than anything else, if you see something that makes you say, wow, I want to hear the wow out loud, right? Because I love hearing that, because that freshens up for me. Like, you know, how many times have I seen 4 blocks of motorcycles with rows and rows of bikes lined up, you know? So, but somebody seeing it for the first time goes, wow, right?
Right.
It's really cool. That is almost overwhelming to see that much in one spot. Um, but it's more than that. It's the quiet stuff too. I mentioned riding in the hills. To me, those are the things I think that first timers, that what makes you say, wow, it's like the sheer beauty and grandeur of the Black Hills. They are absolutely magical. There's a reason why the Native Americans treasured them and held them sacred. Black Hills, as well as Bear Butte, which is just this monolithic feature on the east side of Sturgis that comes up out of the plains, you know, just rises up, and a sacred site to the Native Americans. Those are wow features. But I think also, depending on where you come from, it's different things. Like someone come from a city. I once was with somebody that was there for the first time, and they were from the New York area, and they wanted to ride with me and just hang out. So we
Sure.
were out in Wyoming on a Wednesday, and we are coming back. It was Wyoming Wednesday, but it was dark. We were riding back from Wyoming in the dark. And we're still in Wyoming, hadn't come over the border yet. And I pull off at an exit, and then turned on at the exit. I turned down the road and went just like a half mile down the road, pulled over, and they pull alongside me and go, "What's wrong? What happened? What's going on?" I go, "I just wanted you to see this." And they go, "See what?" I say, "See this." He says, "There's nothing here." I said, "That's what I want you to see." Like, there's no lights as far as you could see. There's no sound. I mean, that's pretty awe-inspiring. And the sky lit up with the stars, you know, things like that. So again, it's sort of like what you bring to Sturgis, what you get out, and where you come from will dictate often what your what you'll get from it, right?
Yeah.
So coming from a city, it's different. But you come from a rural town of 200 people, and you see a few 100,000 motorcyclists. I mean, that's a city right there, right? Or going to the Buffalo Chip on Kid Rock night. There's so many things that really will blow a first timer away. Uh, and I've done my best to really try to get new people there. And a lot of the exhibitions that I did were focused on younger people just to do that.
Hmm.
One of them was actually on born free invited builders. So I actually had a show that featured born free builders one year,
Hmm.
and none of them had ever been to Sturgis, right?
Wow.
And so many of them go back every year now.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that more and more, that a lot of the younger chopper guys, they've discovered that, yeah, it's cool for them too, that there's all sides to be had.
Yeah. There's so many different things and so many different dimensions to it. And what I was actually really pleasantly surprised by um, was that everybody was so nice. I mean, you kind of hear that stereotype of Sturgis brings a lot of rough and tumble people or whatever, but I mean, everybody that I met was nothing but nice, super friendly, um, and it was refreshing. I mean, I didn't expect to be dealing with rough and tumble people or anything like that, but I was just pleasantly surprised at how everybody was just ready to have a good time and hang out and be friendly.
It's even some people that you think look pretty rough and tumble. There's a lot of teddy bears out there too. I mean, you need help, they're going to give you help. That's the way it works. It's really a community, and it's not. That's another aspect of Sturgis, that you get this sense of community, that like-minded people.
Yeah. Now I have to ask though, because it leads me to this question: are there any stereotypes about Sturgis that people have maybe that are true?
Okay, you're going to have to feed some stereotypes to me. Give me an example.
Oh, geez. Well, it's just like it's a bunch of big, hairy bikers drinking beer and hanging out and being wild all the time. I mean, I think that's what most people think of when they think of Sturgis.
Uh, Big hairy bikers sitting around drinking beer. That's probably true. But I mean, it's true, but that's not all that's going on. People are just having a great time getting to know one another, sharing with one another. There more things are going on. There's more bike shows than ever. It was really funny that Daytona was always the place for bike shows. I mean, Big
Okay.
Daddy Rat with his Rat Soul show, definitely that was the pinnacle of the custom bike world
Hmm.
back in the day. And then Big Daddy Rat Carl, he came to Sturgis and he started doing the Rat Soul show in City Park. Never quite was the same as being on the boardwalk in Daytona. But
Sure.
he started that there, and then that did move around a different place. It's settled at the Buffalo Chip for quite a few years now. But it is one of countless shows. I mean, really, there were no shows, there were no bike shows at Sturgis for
Hmm.
years. And then Big Daddy Rat started his Rat Soul show.
Okay.
And then slowly but surely, other shows were added here and there. And now every day of the week, there's multiple shows every single day of bike week.
Hmm.
Again,
Yeah.
countless things to do.
And there's no shortage of beautiful motorcycles, and not only that, but beautiful motorcycles that people are actually riding. Like when I did the Spearfish Loop, and I saw quite a few what looked like custom choppers, and I'm like, man, these guys are actually riding these, which are super cool to see.
Absolutely. They're out there riding. That's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, and I think at the core of it is about motorcycles, no matter what. Um, so you've been going since 1979. What keeps you coming back?
Uh, what keeps me coming back to Sturgis is just to see what's new, what I could find, what I could make of it. To me, it's like a bunch of raw materials that I get to make photographs from. And it's funny, I'll be there for 10 days. When it's time to ride home, and I head down Highway 85, I go through Deadwood and continue south towards Newcastle into Wyoming. Already, as I pass through Deadwood, and I start getting on the highway where there's fewer bikes, because it's already usually the day after the rally's over.
Hmm.
Um, I'm already going, wow, why couldn't it be one more day? And actually this year they added the AFT, added the TT race, the Sturgis TT on
Yeah.
Sunday. And that was a great addition. So, I mean, here I come back and there's something new. I stayed an extra day for that, right? And
Yeah.
they closed a number of streets downtown, and it was free to get in. There was no getting in. You're there. And it was so cool that they added this new element. You know, back in '79, I did buy a T-shirt. There was one official T-shirt, and then I saw somebody wear another shirt, and they said, "Oh, you can get that in the back of the owl." And I go back there and I say, "Oh, is there somebody selling T-shirts?" Oh, she went out for a few minutes. Wait, she's at that big circle table back there. She'll be back. I wait a
Yeah.
little bit. She comes in. I said, "Oh, do you have some T-shirts you sell?" She reaches under the table. She said, "Yeah, these." And it's to hell with the races. I came to party, Sturgis 1979. Right? It was the only other shirt. It was like the
Sure.
one and the other.
Yeah.
And that was true. Like, we did go to the drag races. A lot of years we didn't go to any races. There was maybe the hill climbs sometimes on the Friday, but we weren't there for the races. But I'll tell you, people are getting more and more open to it. So that TT was very cool. And I hope they open the drag strip back up. I hope somebody takes it over and starts that again, because that's a great addition to Sturgis. People are into that kind of thing now. And you see even the 1% clubs are in there racing against each other. It's a real healthy, positive thing to have that racing going on.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. It was overwhelming to be at my first Sturgis, but it was very cool. And, you know, even though it was 100 degrees a couple of those days, I do have some really good memories of just taking it all in. And, you know, I don't think it's going to be my last.
That's good. So what made you say, wow?
I mean, just the amount of people that were there. I mean, I knew there were going to be a lot of people, but it's one thing to like make it a concept in your head, but then it's another thing to see a literal sea of people and motorcycles all over the place. I naively thought that at the Buffalo Chip, that it would be less crazy than the Italian MotoGP race I went to. Because I'm like, well, you know, they're not going to party and make noise all night. And I was wrong about that. And I was like, wow, these guys don't kid around. They party all night. I don't know how if they sleep and how they last multiple days, doing burnouts and making noise and having fun like that. And again, just like the amount of people that like just love motorcycles and we're just happy to be there. You can tell that a lot of people, like, that's what they look forward to all year. That's their big thing. I talked about it to some people as like a spring that gets coiled and more coiled and more coiled and compressed as the year goes on. And that's when people can let their spring kind of, you know, release and relax and just not be told what to do, not have to worry about a job, and just have fun and enjoy it. So
For some people, Sturgis is their 1-2 week vacation a year. You know, I think part of the success of Sturgis is the timing and the location. So, yeah, I mean, it's not on the East Coast, not on the West Coast. It's in the middle. It is a trek from the East Coast, but for a lot of people, they take 2 weeks and they go riding and they come through the Black Hills, and it's just timed with Sturgis. So people may only come for 3 days, or 2, 3, 4 days, but they do that. They experience the Black Hills. They get a couple of days in Sturgis, and then they go out to Yellowstone or up to Montana or down to Colorado, and they're just having a great time out riding. So it's their one, and every year they'll do a little different trip. But whoa,
was that thunder?
that was a big one. Yeah.
Yeah, sure was.
Anyway, so yeah, they make it their holiday, you know, and Sturgis is at the intersection. Just it's right in the middle. People come through one way, the other, down from Canada. You know, my Canadian friends, they host a dinner every Wednesday night of Sturgis that I have to go visit my Canadian buddies, and yeah, they come from everywhere. It's really cool.
That was one of the wows, actually. So I saw an Alaska plate. I saw a lot of Canadian plates, and I mean, I might be exaggerating a little, but I'm pretty sure I saw one of every state license plate except for Hawaii.
Noah Ogene used to bring his bike in, his big ass chopper from Hawaii, but now
Really?
I think he keeps one. on the land side over in the 48
Yeah.
to just fly in and use it. So I think that's what he does now. So I think I know he was there. So there's Hawaiians there, and I saw a group of Indians from India,
Wow.
but they're on rented bikes with South Dakota plates.
There you go.
So
There you go.
I mean, I think people really do come from everywhere.
I think so too, and you know, it really is a special place, and I'm glad I was able to go there and spend a little bit of time with you too. So thank you for that. So
Awesome. It was great to see you there.
Yeah, well, thank you, Michael. And oh, go ahead.
Were you camping out?
Yeah, I camped at the Buffalo Chip. I was in a tent with everybody else, and
Awesome.
making it through the 100-degree days, and
Wow.
then the cold nights, and some of the rain. And I think the only thing I didn't deal with was an earthquake and maybe some hail.
Wow.
So, but yeah,
and some years they get hail really bad. I've had it where I've seen people get puncture wounds from the hail.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's not for the faint of heart, I feel like.
Well, you know, it's what I do. I love it.
Well, thank you, Michael, for spending some time with us, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much.